Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and I am joined, as always, by the... What's a good adjective for Tara?
Ambidextrous?
Are you ambidextrous?
No.
I am joined by Tara, who's repeating this day. She went back in time and is reliving this day with foreknowledge. So, welcome to the show, but you already know what I'm going to say for the entirety of this podcast.
I've been up for 36 hours, all in one day.
Yeah.
Got my earpiece in, you can't see it.
So welcome to the show. This is our sci-fi movie podcast where we talk about a science fiction film every week. Also at the end of the show, most weeks we do a Mystery Science Theater 3000 bonus section where we talk about an episode of that show, which is effectively talking about a bad movie from some time in the past. Later, actually I've forgotten the name of the movie. Was it Zombie Nightmare?
Zombie Nightmare.
Yeah, we're doing Zombie Nightmare on Mystery Science Theater at the end of the show, so you can look forward to that at the end. But the main attraction this week, the main movie we're talking about, is a film that was a winner of our Patreon vote every month on patreon.com/mailfuzztv. We do a vote for our $5 and up patrons, and they get to vote between 4 films. There were 4 time travel movies, I believe, was the vote. Is this our first vote? I think it is.
Yeah.
This is the first one. And the winner was Primer. It was a time travel theme. I think we had Predestination
I
in
can't
there.
believe that this won over Time Cop.
Time Cop was
I
in
wanted
there.
Time Cop so bad.
I mean, there's nothing to stop us from just doing Time Cop in the near future. Because I want to do
Why
Time
would people
Cop.
not choose Time Cop?
Because they knew this.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
They knew this was the one that was going to melt our brains, and they wanted to see the outcome of that. So
Yeah, I hope you brought your red and blue flashcards for this, because I'm
Okay.
going to need a breakdown.
actually, hold on. We're going to pause the recording here because I said I was going to do something before we started, and I want to do it, and it'll take too long to do it on camera while I'm still talking. So we're going to pause this, and we'll be back after I've set something up. So we're going to talk about Primer. We'll start off spoiler free as we always do. I've set up my teaching aid, if we'll call it. Now I won't use this too much because obviously I let people listen to just the audio of this. But for people watching the video, I will be able to draw some diagrams on the screen when the occasion comes for it. Calls for it. Like, you know what? I think you know by now how this show goes. We start off with serious intention of having a serious debate about a science fiction film, and then it goes off the rails and we get kind of silly. That's okay. That's what the show is. But yes. So Primer, I had seen this before a while ago.
Lucky.
You had not.
No. You've had time to think about it.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question before we get. So if you don't know what the Primer's about, basically 2 guys who are kind of engineers accidentally create a method of time travel and start using it, and things get complicated. That's all I'm saying in terms of defining the plot. So what I asked you is, how did you feel watching it in terms of, like, before I even say if you liked it or not, I just want to know, did you find it confusing? Did you find it hard to follow? Was it obtuse? What, were you, like, especially at certain points?
Do you remember the end of the second Matrix movie where it was the architect
Yes.
explaining the world to Neo? And that last 15 minutes made you feel so dumb. This was just an hour and 20 minutes of an architect scene for me. Except I wasn't mad about it. I just felt like I needed to step up my own game.
Yeah, I was going to say there, because I know you hate that scene.
I do.
In Matrix Reloaded. I know you hate that.
Vis-a-vis.
Look at us. We've been doing this long enough now that I'm predicting how she feels about scenes in other films. It's like we're not. This is not the first episode. We're not just podcasting for the first time. It's a beautiful it's a beautiful long form podcast relationship. How beautiful is that, folks?
We're at the butterfly stage. Yeah.
Yeah. We're blooming. Anyway, so yeah, I get what you're saying. I like. This movie is intentionally. I think one of the things that I noticed is that I just said that in my premise of this is that they create time travel by accident, and I think one thing that I'll point out about this movie is I even on the second watch I wasn't sure and had to check afterwards. I did like go and check a couple of things after I finished watching it just to confirm them for myself. But until I read it afterwards, I actually didn't know what they were trying to achieve when they accidentally created time travel.
Yeah, it was like a weightlessness thing, right?
Yeah,
Where
they
it was
were
trying to
Yeah, they were trying to
reduce
use
the weight.
they were trying to decrease weight using an electromagnetic field or something like that. And they accidentally, and I get, okay, because once I read that, I went, oh, I can understand the application, why that would be a good thing. Why, like, oh, shipping things would all of a sudden be like, let's say you're shipping cars to other countries. Oh, if you can make things weigh less, all of a sudden you can have more of them, or you can.
Because they do that one demonstration with the paper clippings and stuff.
Yeah.
On their like small model thing, and when they do that, it like slows it down. So you can't really tell if it's weightlessness or if it's slowed time.
And it's a very low budget film. It was made for $7,000, which is nothing for a movie. Yeah, that is. And don't get me wrong,
the cost of the camera and some mics.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Sometimes it feels like a really cheap movie. It does, but
oh sure, yeah.
But it's definitely not like as amateur as I would expect for something that has a writer, director, producer, star. You know, this
Usually
is not The Room.
A very, very bad sign.
Yeah, this is not The Room. This is not,
Manos.
That was the one I was trying to think of. It's not those movies. Don't get me wrong, I love watching The Room. It's a delight to behold. But
what about Manos?
I love watching the Mystery Science Theater episode of Manos. I don't know if I could get on board with that. I feel like if Tara had said, not even do you want to watch Mystery Science Theater, but if she'd said, do you like Mystery Science Theater? And if I had been anything other than willing to like watch more of it, the podcast would have probably ended right there and then. I'd have been shunned. I'd be like, well, you don't like Mystery Science Theater? Well,
worthy.
Yeah, I'm not wasting my time on you. I'll waste my time on other
That's
people.
my deal breaker.
Yeah, that and Predator.
It's true.
Which I can respect. So I do like the idea that it's created by accident. It's one of those things where so many things that we have in the world were actually not the intention of the device. Like they were discovered by accident. Penicillin is the famous example of that wasn't the goal. And penicillin is such a useful thing. So many things have been created as a byproduct of whatever the goal was, and then it ended up becoming the main thing that was used, and that person became famous for. So that's a really interesting way to tackle a time travel thing. And I always respect a low budget movie that actually doesn't feel like crap, because it does things. And I guess at this point, it is a complicated movie. We're going to break it down, try and get into it and understand it if we can even possibly do so. But at this point, I will ask the question, regardless of how much you could understand it. And that'll probably be my second question. But did you enjoy Primer?
Yes, I did.
You did. Excellent.
What about you?
News. I do as well. I think it has some problems. I think it has some things that I will critique.
Yeah.
And there are things that I will critique on a script level. So it's not like I'm saying, it's just because, I give them a pass because it's only $7,000 worth of filmmaking, as opposed to, it's stuff that
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's I try not to hold a movie's budget or when it was made.
Oh sure.
Too close to the chest, because there are limitations for that reason. And if you could pull something off, that's great. I try not to hold it against him.
Oh yeah, like any complaints I'm going to have are more from like a script choice to a scripting then direction choice to like make certain, because I think some of the things that are obtuse in this movie don't have to be. Like they could have made things clearer instead, because the last like 15-20 minutes especially, I don't think it's always made clear what's going on. And I've seen it twice now and like read like summaries and like watched other people talk about it, so I know what happens at the end, but I don't think on a first time watch it's actually that clear, like what the last 15 minutes did.
I think I have so many questions. Certain characters pop up later on and I'm like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
Why this is important.
That said, though, I think this film is very inventive and it has such a great like atmosphere. There's this tone to it.
Yes.
That I think is exceptional. And while I think it sometimes looks pretty amateur, although I understand that maybe this choice of shooting style to make it feel, because it's like, okay, what can we achieve with no money? And that was kind of the choice, and a lot of the cast in the movie are like friends of the director kind of thing. And again, that usually spells disaster. But this is clearly someone who was talented enough to like try and make something work. Even if I do think that there's definitely some things they could have made clearer to the audience.
Yeah.
But I can't deny that it has this feeling, this mood, this tone where I feel like I'm almost spying on a discovery. where I'm not supposed to know about this.
Sure. I mean, they all come off as like real engineers, like real scientists. Like the
To a f-
jargon that they
yeah,
use, I'm sure like half of it's made up, but I buy it.
yeah.
Like they all seem like they all are just coworkers and they know what they're talking about.
To a fault, because I think the opening like 10 minutes where it's just like we're sort of meeting them for the first time and they're talking to each other about whatever the project is. Like I say, I didn't know what they were trying to achieve. I just, all these words were being bandied around, and
Sure.
you felt you'd been dropped into it, which maybe makes it feel more real because I shouldn't understand all this jargon. But to its credit, when it does start doing the time travel stuff, it is definitely something you have to pay attention to and kind of listen for and make sure you're
Mhm.
taking it in, but you can understand. I think it's the last like 15-20 minutes, like I said, where it gets a little bit murky in how it presents its information and could be doing with cleaning up a little bit in the script. But um yeah, so no, I'm pretty positive on it though, because I think it's like when I saw the first Paranormal Activity. That film was made for like $15,000, and say what you will about the sequels and say what you will about the trend that it started, like that is a super inventive little movie where someone said, I can,
Mhm.
if we have a nice house to shoot in and a camera, I can make this movie. I don't need
Yeah.
anything else.
I'm not like a big horror person, but I actually kind of like the sequels. They're the ones that I've seen anyway.
I thought 2 was decent enough, and I actually quite like 3. I actually thought 3 might be better than 1. And
Is that the one with the Xbox and the little girls?
oh no, that's 4. I hated that one.
Okay.
That's
That's
the
the
one.
last one I saw.
That's the one with the Kinect, which is like features like as a prominent
Yeah, it was a weird scene.
plot point. No, 3 was great because it did this thing where they put the camera on an oscillating fan, so it actually panned left and right at one point. And it was set in the 80s. Like I really that one I felt was the most inventive, and I liked the ending the most, I think.
Yeah.
But so because I think after that they started like stretching for ideas, and they kind of watered down the core premise so they could keep stretching it, and it was whatever.
Right.
But
Well, I didn't think it was, they always managed to find kind of a clever way to bring back the same family,
sure.
the family tree anyway.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
two and 3 at
wrong
least.
franchise.
Once we got to 4 and marked ones, and then the final dimension,
Didn't see it.
whatever the 6th one was. I did it in streams
The
long
key,
ago.
right? No, that's Insidious. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
Insidious. The last
Whatever.
key. Yeah.
Everything's starting to blur.
If you want to hear me talk about horror films, you can do that on Streams After Midnight, our horror movie podcast that I do with Tim, which has been going for over 300 episodes. We are veterans at this point.
Woo.
I know. So, what was I going to say? Yes, so, Primer.
Low budget. Yeah.
Low budget, and I respect that. I respect low budget films, because this is the thing. Like whenever I like critique like higher budget films for not looking very good or feeling amateur, like it really pisses me off because you can do a lot with less if you're talented, if you know what you're doing, if you have or not even a style, but if you have a determination to make something that feels like a real movie, you can do it. And obviously, this is a higher budget than this, but even $300,000 for Halloween, the original Halloween, is insanely low. Like movies don't get made for under millions, right? They don't really. Even at that time, they didn't really. But the sequels all get made for millions of dollars. Halloween 2 has a much higher budget than Halloween 1. Back in the 70s and at the start of the 80s in that case.
Yeah.
And when you watch Halloween, it is one of the most stylish, impressively directed horror films of all time, and it's a classic for a reason.
Oh, it holds up. It's great. Yeah.
And like it's my favorite horror film. I think it's a 10 out of 10. I think it's a masterpiece. So when someone comes in with $100 million budget and I think it looks like crap, when I say it looks like crap, I just mean how it looks, like the core visual, the color timing, and like just how it appears to my eyes before I even get to script or characters.
All the CGI.
Plot. Yeah, CGI. Like it's just like movies used to look good, and they used to look good on a very low budget where people just cared about it and they put the effort in. And
it seems to me that those kind of movies always, like the low budget films that make all their money back, seem to spark a lot of franchises. And maybe it's just because of the horror connection, but I think Rocky was the same way also.
Well, Rocky was the first movie with Steadicam in it. That kind of revolutionized a new way of shooting. To the point,
Really? I didn't know that.
To the point where, I remember actually when I was in a TV, or was it in university studying television production, and we were talking about different types of mount, and mounts are just like tripod or a track or different things you put the camera on basically, cranes, whatever. And And we're talking about Steadicam. If you don't know what a Steadicam is, a Steadicam is it's like a counterweight, so that even if you're holding, because handheld, which is not a bad thing. Like people think, oh, handheld looks amateur. No, like tons of movies use handheld and shaky cam. Like this is a legitimate technique to make things feel tense, or if you're Star Trek, you do
action films,
you do it really quickly to make it look the ship's having turbulence or getting hit by a rocket or something.
Television show?
They had television show Star Trek, the original series, and all of them even.
Thanks for that.
Oh dear! If you want to return the favor and do a Buffy one later, I mean that's okay.
We'll see.
All take and no give.
I don't know Buffy.
Yeah, I know. But so that's what Steadicam is. So the idea is that you know it has this kind of floaty feel to it, and Halloween used it a lot as well. The POV shots specifically to like follow people around. Typically POV stuff, if you're doing like a long take like that, will be in a Steadicam. And it's used a lot for sports now as well, because they can be quite mobile with it, but still have a pretty steady shot. But it does. But you can tell the difference. Like between that and a track, you can feel the difference when you're watching it if you know what you're looking for. But Rocky did this thing, the famous moment, at the end of the training montage where he runs up the steps, right? And the camera follows him up the steps and like circles around him and goes, up and down the steps with him, and it's completely smooth and dreamlike the whole time.
Right. There's no track. There's no
track. There's a story that I was told in uni about this, where the DP and maybe the director or whoever went to like I don't know if it was like a festival or something where there was other DPs and directors, right? So something where there was a gathering of people that knew how to make movies, and they showed them this clip from Rocky, and the director of photography who were there, the cinematographers, turned and said, "How the f did you do that?" They didn't know, and it like wowed them. They were because they could tell that they couldn't do this with track. Because the shot goes up the steps with them, circles around them, like it couldn't be track. It was impossible. And they're like,
it was just a magic trick at the time.
Yeah, how did you do this? And they're not idiots, because like they recognize it and go, no, you can't do this. Like, tell me what secret you've got. And it was a Steadicam. That was the new technology that made it possible. And I always loved hearing that story. So yeah, I just got into that because you mentioned Rocky. I wanted to talk about it.
I'm trying to get Creed on this show somehow.
And like. This movie does not, I wouldn't say it looks good. That's in fact the worst thing about this movie is probably how it looks. It looks very...
Oh yeah, that one nighttime scene that's in there looks horrible.
Yeah, because they're shooting in I think Super 16mm. It's very grainy, it's very kind of rough looking. The color timing in a lot of scenes, it's this harsh fluorescent overexposed kind of thing. It's going for a style for sure, but it does make it feel less like a movie, and it looks more like a documentary, like they've caught some footage that they're not supposed to have, kind of thing. Yeah. It has that kind of feel to it, so it gives it this tone. And every so often there's this narration that comes in, and it's like it almost is kind of over a shitty recording over a phone, kind of thing. So it's going for a thing. It's taking. It's very smart. It's using what they could achieve, knowing that it's not up to par with what a full, a proper produced movie is, but making it work in the context of what your plot is, to give it the tone that we can use that to actually enhance the feeling of the film, as opposed to
right.
So very smart in that sense.
Yeah, I do like the way it was shot. A lot of it, like a lot of the just the camera work is like half behind a pillar or something, or like a wall, and like you're spying on them, like you said earlier. It just adds to the atmosphere. I thought, nothing really took me out on the way it was shot, other than how cheap everything looked and sounded.
A lot of handheld. There's a lot of handheld in this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of shaky cam.
The editing's really quick.
Yeah, there's a lot of quick.
And the dialogue is really quick too.
Yeah, they're firing so much dialogue back and forth at each other. It is insane. The editing is kind of a funny one to me, because I almost feel like, because one of the things I read earlier actually is that because it was so low budget, and because they were having to buy film, because they were still shooting film. It was 2004, but
it's not digital. Okay, yeah.
And because of that, and because it was a cheap film, and they had a $7,000 budget, and I assume it wasn't actually a budget. I assume it's just that's how much they ended up spending by the end. I highly doubt they went in with we've got $7,000 to spend. It
was probably just, hey friends, want to make a movie?
Yeah, can you pitch in for the film?
I don't think they actually paid anyone.
Yeah, and because of that, like they couldn't do a lot of takes. So the fact that there's so many shots that it's cutting between to me is insane. I'm like, I would like almost go with a style that's more conclusive to single long takes, just so that you could do it in one or two and that's it, and like that's a whole scene. Whereas this has got a lot of shots. I suppose the opposing argument to that is though is that if you do 3 takes, say, and you're going to cut between a lot of different takes because you're cutting between a lot of different shots, you can hide mistakes that way, because if there's like one bad part in one take, you can, use a different shot. And
well, plus, I mean, I kind of looked up the actors, but they all look like, for the most part, this is their first movie, and they're probably not professional actors at all. So in that case, you probably don't want to do long takes, because if one person screws up, then you have to start all over.
As someone who's made a few student films, I can sympathize, and I'm someone who wanted long takes, because I love a long. I just mentioned how much I love Halloween, right? I love a long take.
It's good for horror.
It's good for horror, and I'm trying to build tension, and I'm like, So luckily, the one that I did make that was more horror-esque, it didn't have a lot of dialogue in it, so I could at least just kind of like, you just have to do the actions, right? You don't have to remember lines here. Just be mysterious.
When are we going to review that one on Screams After Midnight?
You've seen that short film, actually. You've seen Beyond the Door. So
yeah.
So let's talk about the time travel. Did you like the method of time travel?
You mean like the box, or
yeah,
or the explanation?
The way it handles time travel, the way it like this is not like they've got a device they can just like put in a date and like go to the future or the past. There's this very strict rule they have to follow.
Right. I'm going to say yes, because it seems very clean and
it doesn't
very well thought out
until a certain point in the movie.
I just don't know if I've entirely followed it. I'm gonna have to take care of something real quick.
I wonder if that something's name is Gus and that something is a putty cat. I wonder. Yeah, the time travel in this is really interesting. It's kind of this idea of you basically turn on a timer, and then you go away, do whatever you're doing, and you come back and you go into the box, and then you stay in the box for the amount of time you want to go back in time in, and then you come out when you turned on the timer. So it's this kind of looping kind of style of time travel. So it's always the past, and it always has to be something you can feasibly do by staying in a box. And you can't
go back further from when the box was activated.
Yes, you have to go back to when the box was activated. So, and that's not too hard to understand, but it gets really complicated later on when they start doing some wackier stuff. But at least that core idea is quite understandable early on. And it starts playing with it. And yeah, the actors, they're very amateur feeling, but at the same time, they're very amateur in a way that feels like more, again, like a documentary. They don't feel like they're idiots trying to act. Does that make sense?
No, they seem like engineers.
Yeah. They don't seem like actors, though. They seem like regular people.
They do,
which is interesting. Which I appreciate. So
some of them seemed a little bit too regular people. There are a couple of actors that like stood out.
Some of the friends that you only see in one or two scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one guy who like keeps lighting up a cigarette, but it really doesn't look like he knows how to smoke a cigarette. But he's like, this is going to be my thing, my character thing. And he like lights it up, and he doesn't inhale, just like the smoke comes out, and he holds it all weird. And he does it twice, like in a later scene too. And you're like,
if you're just picking that for a character trait, why would you pick something that you know you can't do? Like, it's so weird. Oh dear, so weird. But yeah, the movie, like, it's a short movie as well. It's like an hour and 17 minutes. It's like, it's 77 minutes kind of thing. Not a long film, and I think it
doesn't really feel short though. Not to me anyway. Maybe because I was, lost at a lot of it. I was like, okay, and so much happens, so much dialogue. It doesn't seem like a short film.
I think it's because there's so much dialogue and so many scenes. I think that has the effect of you feeling like you've been through so many scenes that it must have been, reasonably lengthy. But in actual fact, it's actually a really short film.
Did you feel that way?
Not this time. I may have done the first time. I can't remember. But this time, I definitely I felt the opposite actually, where I felt like the conflict in the story, if you want to call it that, in the last 25 minutes, felt like it was almost too late. I was like, how can there only be 25 minutes left? They have to give this more time. And I almost think that would actually benefit the film if they did take a bit more time in that last chunk and
pace it out a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and not necessarily overly explained it, but just presented it in a way that was a little less confusing. But we'll get into that when we talk about the spoilers and stuff, which we're probably a bit ready to do. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about and spoiler free before we.
Not really. No.
Okay, well in that case, brace yourself. Brace yourself for spoilers for Primer.
Here we go.
So they're doing this project at the start. One of them, Abe. So we've got two main characters, the two guys that are the central at the film. We have Aaron, who's played by the director, and we have Abe, who's the friend. I
really, really wish that they had names that were more different.
I know. So Abe is the one who kind of discovers that there's time travel happening. Does some tests with a watch, and they get kind of confused and know what's going on. And then it's kind of revealed that he actually did, in fact, do a test on himself. He built, a human-sized box. And he proves this to Aaron by actually... So they're out, on their truck in a really random place, having this conversation. How Abe convinced them to go to this place? I guess he was driving and said, oh, well, we'll sit here and, talk out in, the fresh air, I guess. But he's like, try to explain theoretically how a person could do this and what the rules would be. And we kind of intercut this, or we don't, maybe not yet, but we certainly do intercut it when he explains it later, how you would have to turn on the thing and then go and kind of hide yourself from society so you don't have any effect on the world, so that when you go
don't
back
influence anything,
yeah. So at the end of the 6 hour period in this case, when you go back into the box and you go back in time 6 hours, and you come back out, you're not interacting with the person that, because he says that, no, I left immediately when I turned it on so that I wouldn't encounter myself. And the original version that stayed through the day, went through the time box, comes back out, could then go and do things and interact with people and make sure the original version never did. And it would be this kind of this loop that has a close because eventually it comes out the box. But the idea being that when the new one is out in the world, technically the other one's actually in the box still, so you have this weird paradox thing where the one's in the box, but anyway, so that happens. So he proves it to Aaron by saying, hey, this is going to be kind of crazy, but look through these binoculars. And he looks over and it's him going into this storage facility. These are storage not lockers, but big storage rooms.
Yeah. Storage unit.
Yeah, storage unit. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And he's freaked out, obviously. So, wait, what? You did this? So you've went back in time. This is the second version of you that's came back in time that you're talking to me. And he's like, yep. And from there, they start going back in time and they check stock market changes and okay, we can make some money by doing this properly. And they have to be careful. And of course, eventually they kind of make a mistake and there's maybe some incidents that they have to get into. So before we get to the big stuff towards the end, at this point in the film, how are you feeling about how they're showing this and intercutting, because they kind of do this thing where they intercut him doing, instead of intercutting with him doing it originally, they intercut the explanation with them doing it the next day, of both of them doing it.
I still, I think I was following it for the most part but I still was confused at which version I was looking at a lot of the times. And I don't know. I don't know if you can do it a bit differently because of course they would look exactly the same. They've only changed 6 hours. But yeah, I think at this point I was getting a little bit lost. What about you?
That's fair. Again, I can't remember how I felt the first time. I've seen it a second time and already having an idea of how it worked. It did help. Okay. I probably followed it better this time. I certainly wasn't lost at this point. I think the middle part of the film at this section, I thought, I understand this. I know exactly what's happening. I get it. I did vaguely remember though that the ultimate kind of big thing is that one of them actually had a third box, because there's 2 boxes in this unit that they're using, so they can both do it at the same time. I knew that one of them had a third box that they'd turned on before all this started, so that if they wanted to, they could go all the way back. And
yeah, that was a cool reveal.
Yeah,
and smart, like to
yeah.
have a fail safe.
That's exactly what it is, the
Um,
failsafe box. In case they start screwing things up and things start getting weird. It was like, you know,
right. There's a lot about the ending that I don't understand though.
yeah. So there's a couple of
Maybe on a second viewing I would get it, but I don't know.
yeah, there's a couple of things that happen. Like Aaron at one point realizes that when in the hotel room hiding that he's got his cell phone on him, right? And it rings, and he answers it and talks to his wife, and it's just kind of
And it's
fine.
okay at this point because he's still in the box, or the
Yeah,
other version of him still in the box, right?
yeah. But make sure you can't take it with you the next day or when you go back. You have to make sure
Mhm.
it's like not with you. Um,
Because
unfortunately,
she's going to call again,
yeah.
and it has to be the other guy, the other version of you that answers it.
Yeah, the original version. But he forgets he's got it on him, and when they're out in the world getting food the next day, or on the same day rather, after they've time traveled, the phone rings, and they have this interesting debate of like, well, is the other one ringing too, so you might still answer it in the hotel, or is it just ringing yours first because yours is the first one that because like what happens with the phone company if there's two identical phones with two identical numbers in the area? Like, how does it handle that? Like, because obviously I don't think that happens. It shouldn't happen. Why would it happen? There's a reason why everyone has a phone number, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting debate, and they don't know. Like, if I don't answer it and the other one's not answering it, then we've changed things because the wife got the phone call yesterday, but not today. If he does answer
Right.
it, then I mean the original one's not answering it, so you've changed what happened to you guys on the same day before.
Right. Who knows how that influences, like, because he assumingly didn't get the phone call at all from his wife. So, I mean, how does that change your day?
You could argue
Are
it's
you going to end up on the same like routine?
here's something for you. You could argue it's already changed his day, and that's why he didn't remember to put his phone like away. He has it on him because, as far as he's concerned, like it kind of went out of his head and he didn't remember it.
Oh boy, my brain can't handle that right now.
Yeah. So just to do a simple diagram on screen, I'll just explain it once again. So the way this works, I'll do right, red for the box, right. So they go into a box. They turn on a timer. They turn on a timer, right?
Hmm.
And they then live out the day hiding, maybe getting some stock tips, but that's about it, right? And then they maybe I could have done this a better way. But then they go back, they go into the box and come out. I mean, I should probably do it on the box up here actually, because they actually get the box up here, right? So there you go. So they spend time in the box, say 6 hours in this case, and come back, and then they pop out during the time that they turned it on, right?
Hmm.
And then that's when they live their new time. Okay, so original, and then they come out, and then we've got the new versions of them, right? Simple enough.
Okay, right. Except now there's two of them.
There's two of them until they get to the time again where the original versions go in the box to travel in time. Once we get past this time in the day when they went in the box, we're back to just having one set of them,
Okay.
right?
I'm just gonna take your word for it because to be honest, I don't understand how there's not always two of them.
Because right, so because they always go back in the box, so there is like a little time loop where they've done
Hmm.
this, where they the versions they always so the versions that go in the box, or sorry, the versions that turn the thing on then live out the day, and then they go in the box, they go back in time and come out the box, and then they live like forever essentially. Well, obviously they go in the box again when they do this more times, but just for the sake of this example, they're just doing it once, right? So they come out
Okay.
and they live forever. The versions that so there is technically two of them for that day, right? The original versions hide in the hotel room, and the new versions that were in the box and have time traveled and are living out their day, knowing what they've done. The versions, the versions that are now in the hotel still do the thing that they did before. They still go back in the box and time travel and become the versions that are out in the world now. You could
But
argue,
they're on a different timeline?
well, that's the debate, right? Where because you could argue that even the first time they do it and they're hiding, that the other versions already came out the box because they'd already time traveled.
I need a PhD to be able to watch this movie.
Oh, so
This
good.
is not Terminator science.
It is not. This gets more complicated in a minute as well. So we get this. I think one of the things that this movie could have made clear about is that there's this incident where Abe. Because I'll be honest, I didn't even realize Abe had a girlfriend until they started talking about her like late on in the
Me
movie.
neither.
It was so weird. Like they should have
Yeah, I
established
didn't.
that.
Well, I knew they said something about it's Rachel, right? That's his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And one of the coworkers, I think the one that is smoking, says that at the party for her, somebody showed up with a shotgun. And I don't know if anyone got injured or people were just scared, but she was threatened or something. And I didn't know that that was his girlfriend. I just thought that was just like a mutual friend or something.
Yeah.
Like another coworker, or I had no idea.
Yeah, no, I definitely picked up that he came in with a shotgun. Like that was the key thing that stuck out in the scene when they talk about it. But it's such a quick scene, and it feels like, is this the result of something happening? Like I don't think they set up the stakes enough where we know that the goal to go back further after this is to try and like save the day at this even though no one actually got shot. But it was basically like, he scared my girlfriend, so I want to make sure that didn't happen, kind of thing.
Right, he wants to be a hero.
Wants to be a hero. And they're debating doing it, and Abe reveals that he's been turning on the machine at 5 o'clock at night before they leave, in case they have to go back and like repeat a night to try and fix something. And they're on their way to do this. And there's a character they talk about at the start, and I only caught this because it was my second viewing and because I confirmed it afterwards as well. So early on, they're looking for funding for the project that ends up turning into the time travel thing, and they're wanting funding from this guy, this dad of someone they know. I think it's I think it's the girlfriend's dad, or maybe his wife's dad. I think it must be the girlfriend's dad. Maybe I don't
It's
know.
Rachel's dad
I think it's
because he
Rachel's dad.
shows up. Is it the same one that shows up later?
That's where I am now. It's the nighttime scene where he kind of shows up and they start, because at this point in the film we've only heard about him a couple of times, and it was right back at the start of the film. I mean, we never really saw him either, and they kind of noticed that he's driving behind them, and I think Abe says like this, or Aaron says, this is so weird. I saw him earlier today and he was clean shaven because he's going to a thing like tomorrow or something like that. And he's got like, a 3-day shadow on his face right now. And it's like, how could this happen? And they kind of chase him, and I love like they're freaking out because it feels like someone else has went back in time and they don't know why or how like he has access to this. That is a really great idea.
That is cool because you can't know why. I
love the debate where they're like, can you think of a reason why you would tell him in the future? And they're like, no, I don't. And can you think of why you would tell him? No, I can't. And they have this debate. Maybe it was an emergency, maybe it was something, and we never really find out, which I'm okay with. But I think what's interesting is that they never like you have to really be paying attention here to notice that they mention that they've actually got him in a coma, like lying in one of their beds, like in another room when they come back. And they even speculate for a brief second that, do we like see if he's in one of the boxes? Like, do we turn it off and find out? Like, is he just in there? Like, how do we deal with this? And then we come up with the failsafe thing and we find out about it. But like, I almost feel like this entire section of the movie could be like other half hour. I could go for half an hour of debating, is he in the box? Do we turn it off? If we do turn it off while he's inside the box, what does that do to him?
Yeah, what happens? Plus they're stuck, right? Because they can't go back any further if they have the failsafe, but unless he's in the failsafe and they have to turn that off too.
Yeah, well, we're always not in the failsafe because they go in the failsafe, at least.
Right. But they wouldn't know that at that moment.
Oh, sure. And then even on top of that, like, they've got this second version of Mr. Granger, whatever his name is, and like we know because they phoned the one that's like not traveled in time because he's in his house. So he's like, why are you calling me so late? Kind of thing. So they know like they could kill this version of Granger and never be caught. Like, have that debate. Like, because Mr. Granger's there. Like, how no one would, like, he's not been murdered. He's alive. He's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so much they could do with this. And
Yeah, that was really cool, except I didn't know who Rachel was or Mr. Granger was when he showed up.
that's fair. That's totally fair because the first time I watched
And
it,
it really like took me out. Like I kept trying to figure out why is he important? Who is this guy? And I didn't catch it in the beginning
yeah.
like you did.
Well,
And I felt totally lost about that.
The first time I didn't. The first time I watched this, I know I was confused at this point, wondering who the hell is this asshole. And
Right.
I got the fear that someone else had traveled back in time. I understood that the first watch, but I never
Yeah.
understood who this character was. And that's why I say when I want to critique it, like I think it's use of time travel. I mean, as much as I'm saying they could have done more with this part of the concept here, what makes the movie good is how it plays with time travel and how it maybe explores it in a way that's different to other movies. I think where it fails is just conveying simple information. Like this isn't like even like time travel theories. This is just who is this character? Like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
that
This
should
is
not
just
be
a
confusing.
really poor way of introducing a character that we were supposed to know.
Yeah, like, that shouldn't be difficult, but it is here, and I feel like it is a kind of a failing of the movie. But yeah, so this is when Abe reveals that he had a failsafe. He had a third box in a different locker that he turned on before all this started, so that if something went wrong, if because they mentioned at one point that they're noticing little things or whatever, but if something went wrong and we messed things up and it got too complicated, I could stop us from ever starting, and that would like fix everything and just be it.
I am still confused about it though. Like,
There's,
it,
there's
how
one.
can he do it from like before he even discovers time travel?
Well, it's not before he discovers it. It's before he did it the first. Do you know the first test where he proved it to Aaron? He did it
Right.
like before that. He set up the boxes, but he had a third one, and he turned that on before he went back in the first one. And the idea,
Okay, because I thought he was explaining that when they had the little mini box with like the Weebles in it,
oh sure,
that was what they were going to
No.
sabotage.
the one thing I don't understand in this episode, this ending, this movie that confuses the shit out of me
This
still.
experiment.
Yeah. Right. So Abe says he built a failsafe and he turned it on before he told Aaron, right? Because there's a scene early on where Aaron comes up to him on a bench. Or sorry, Abe comes up to Aaron on a bench and Aaron's sitting there and Abe says to him, "Hey, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be really huge and freak you out. I'm going to show you something that's going to change your life," kind of thing.
Right.
Right? That's the moment where he basically leads to telling him about everything. And yeah, there's actually a part here that's actually confusing me now that I'm thinking about it, but I'll get back to that when we get to the other malarkey. So the idea is he can go back and he can stop it from ever happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out, and here's the part that confuses me because I don't understand it. Because I understand this. I understand having a failsafe. I even understand that after going through the failsafe and going all the way back to the start of all the different time traveling episodes, that if Abe changes things and stops it from ever happening, they will never do everything else. So Mr. Granger thing will never happen. And this is why there will be a second version of Abe forever, because the original version is never going to do this loop. He's created a paradox here by going through the failsafe and stopping it. However, Abe's not.
Well, they said they have to like disappear for a while, right? Like
For
go to
forever.
another country and
Well-
stuff like that. Isn't that for that reason?
Well, yeah, forever, because like there is now two versions of them forever, because the original Abe is never going to, well, no, he is the original Abe, but the Abe that's now created, cat. He was biting
My
at
cat
things.
too, man.
Ah, they're being pests. Right. So you lost my cat. You made me lose my train of thought. I was on a very complicated train. Right. So again, to explain the original way this movie works, they turn the box on. They go into the they turn the box on. They live out the time that they're spending. They're going to travel back through. They then go into the box and go back to when they turned the machine on. So whilst they're going through that period where they had to wait in the box, there is two versions of them, because there's the versions that lived the day originally, and then there's the versions who traveled through time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You could even argue there's a third version who's always in the box if you really wanted to, but
Yeah.
that's the way it works. That's why there's two versions of them throughout that 6 hour period, that day period, whatever it is. But then once the versions who were waiting go in the box, it's just the ones who came out of the box that exist from that point on. Right? The loop's been completed, and it's only the ones that have completed the cycle that are now alive. But because Abe's plan is to go through the failsafe that goes all the way back to the start, and actually, because the whole theory up until this point is to never change anything, is to not cause any paradoxes and just get away with doing it without without affecting anything in the world. This plan, though, with the failsafe, is to stop them from ever doing it. Therefore, they will never go in the box, and they will never complete a loop. Therefore, the original version will exist because he's went through the failsafe, but now this new paradox version, who will just continue to live out his life, will live as well. I understand that.
Yes.
No worries, Tara.
I mean, for the most part.
Yeah, I understand up until this point. I mean, I don't understand the science behind it, but I understand the rules. I understand why that happens the way it happens in terms of the looping and having doubles and whatnot. The part I don't understand is that then Aaron reveals that, or he doesn't reveal, but we sort of get like a montage of all these things happening, and we'll talk about how this is handled in a second, but Aaron reveals that he actually discovered the failsafe and
went back
as well. He had like a modular failsafe that it was almost like
he said something about like it being foldable so you can bring it back with you.
Yeah, it's like he went in the same failsafe and then and we can bring it back.
I don't know if we can do it, man. I don't know if we can make this make sense.
This is the part I don't understand. I don't understand how Aaron achieves this. He says something about it being modular and foldable, and he was able to like take it inside with them. To me, it almost seemed like he was inside the same cube that because they knock themselves out. They take gas to like go to sleep inside, right? So they're not awake. And it sounded like he went inside the same, but he shared the box with Abe, but it somehow went back further, almost like he went inside with a foldable box, turned it on while he was inside so that it would be ticking, and then when he came
that it would still be on so that he would have an additional 6 hours to go back. Would that work?
Yeah, like the idea being, so he definitely says something about taking one back with him. So the idea that he takes one back with him and he turns that on inside the box so that it's been on for however many hours, right? And then he builds it back up once he gets out, maybe a little bit earlier than Abe does, right? So he's actually further in the time. But he builds this other box, and because of that, he can then, because he's already turned it on inside the box, or before he went in, or whatever, he then could go back another extra day, or whatever it was, and, beat Abe to the punch. Because the big twist here in this is that Aaron, who has always been more gung-ho about doing things for gain, whereas Abe's the careful one, and try to be, trying to not cause any changes. Aaron, we find out that he's actually, because they've both drugged the earlier versions of themselves so they won't go in like that day when they had this first conversation where Abe reveals what's going on. And it turns out that when Abe goes up to pretend that he's being, present day Abe at the time, Aaron's actually already also future Aaron, and he's actually listening. Aaron started recording all their conversations at some point so that he could reiterate everything. Now, the far-fetched bit of this is that Aaron was like thinking this far ahead. Like, I buy that Abe would build a failsafe because he thinks time travel right run amok. The idea that Aaron was thinking so far ahead that he had this conversation on tape like this early is a little bit wonky to me.
I guess, but he can go back in time as many times as he wants if he's before the time that Abe comes back.
That's true. You're right. Maybe he actually does it a few times. But he even mentions when it gets to the party incident that he has tried it multiple times until he gets it right, until he fixes it. And it becomes this interesting question of, did they always do this? Because they mentioned that no one ever gets hurt at the party. Like, even the first time we hear about it, no one got shot. The gun never fired.
Yeah, it was just a frightening event for everyone. So it's still a chance for Abe to be a hero. It was Abe, right?
Yeah, it was Abe's girlfriend. But here's the thing, is Aaron, like, he basically, the ultimate solution is that they know the gun's in the car until he goes and this weird guy goes and gets it. So he just goes in the car and empties it, makes sure there's no ammo in it so that nothing can happen. And my question then is, well, were all these loops always going to happen, and that's why it never fired in the first place? It was never going to fire because Aaron always emptied the gun.
I thought maybe I would watch the movie a second time, or like just skim through the parts. And I didn't watch I watched like the last 20 minutes again. Yeah. And I also went back and I watched um, the scene where Abe first goes back and confronts him, and he is wearing a headphone
Mm.
when he does that in the beginning or in the first like I don't know what that is, like the first half hour of the film when he
Yeah.
actually goes back in time the first time. And Aaron does have the earpiece in his ear. And I think I noticed that they were always wearing an earpiece or like one or the other were always wearing them at some points. And I bet that, that tracks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably like it
I assumed he
confirms.
was just listening to music or something,
Yeah,
but
it confirms that Aaron, like the version of Aaron we were seeing throughout the film, was one that had already traveled back in time and was going through the motions of these conversations,
mhm.
and like doing everything again essentially. Um, because it is really dark. So yeah, I think the first time I watched this, I didn't immediately get that like both of them had traveled this far back in time together, like
I
sort of
just didn't
separately.
understand how. Like
Yeah.
I knew that they were saying that there was like a third fail safe, but I didn't understand how it was possible. I'm assuming like through our back and forth that we would like get close.
I think we kind of did. I think again the conveying of information in the movie is a little bit rough in the sense that like if you're telling me that you can fold up a thing, like it's done through narration and like the audio like recordings that we're hearing throughout the film, and I
Hmm.
feel like you have to show me it, like make it very clear, like show me him like
Yeah,
folding
I
up a
guess I couldn't do
thing.
it with the budget, but
Yeah.
like I needed more.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I like it makes it more confusing than it needs to be. And it intercuts with like both of them like drugging themselves so that they're taking each other out kind of thing. That like it gets a little bit confusing as to who's drugging who. At one point I thought Aaron was drugging Abe, like original Abe kind of thing.
the scene where Abe is being like smothered with the
Mm-hmm.
mouthpiece, I don't know. I don't know what's happening there.
Oh, I think that's right. That's the Abe that's went back smothering younger Abe so that he can take part in the conversation during the day, just to make sure that time travel never happens.
So that's him knocking him out.
I think that's Abe knocking himself out. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
While Aaron is just using the syringe and the milk to
for
drug him because he knew what he ate for breakfast.
for himself, yeah. Um, because he mentions that he's done it multiple times. He's went back and drugged himself multiple times, and after the second time, like sometimes he'd wake up and like put up a fight, and he'd have to fight himself. He says that,
Yeah, yeah.
so which is again conceptually very interesting.
And it seems like one of them he leaves the house and the other Aaron is still awake. And he said like he just wanted it more or something. So I guess there are multiple versions of him where he's awake.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Like, does he just explain what he's doing
Does
here?
that matter?
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
weird. It's so weird. But so here's the thing: they kind of like make a bit of a truce. And again, this is something where I feel like it happens too quickly, and like to the point where they're falling out because of what Aaron's done, and they're truced to for at least for a while to like solve this party problem, which they do, right? And it becomes kind of like okay, they saved the day, and I'm like, I feel like yeah, okay, give them this thing to solve, this like crisis they can stop.
Hmm.
That's a fine idea. I think all of it just happens so quickly though that it's impossible to sort of take it in and actually get into the tension of it maybe happening and them succeeding or failing or whatever.
Right. And even though I think they do a fine job acting, I
Yeah,
think professional actors would have given me more to be stressed out about during this
sure. Yeah,
because they're kind of in neutral the whole time. And like there's a lot that happens and I know they're in a crisis, but it's hard for me to keep up with all the science that's going on and the timelines and also like try to understand what kind of a crisis this is. Like when I was watching, I really got lost.
I think more time needed to be spent establishing the crisis the first time we hear about it and like have it actually be something that feels kind of bad, and
Yeah.
also them trying to solve it. Like again, I could take a whole other like 20 minutes here of the movie, like with them just like okay, we've went all this way back, let's use it to stop this incident, and have them like have to actually do the research and plan it. Like there's like a couple of lines in narration that kind of imply that Aaron's been like going back and like trying this multiple times, and I'm like, give us a montage. Let us see them try. Let him see do his research. Let him let
Hmm.
let us see him scope things out, kind of thing. But yeah, so it could really be neater with conveying its information at this point in the film. It's not just, it's one thing for the science to be confusing, which is fine. You know, if they want to make it feel like it is like really hard, like that's fine. Um,
Yeah, yeah. There's that's the thing also with the film is that I sort of I'm not really mad at the movie. I'm kind of mad at myself for not being able to keep up. Like I know that it's probably solid, like all the
yeah,
time travel stuff and the story beats and all the characters. I'm sure it all makes sense if I were to like read it as a script.
I can be a little mad at the movie for how it conveys the information towards the end and not spending enough time, like really giving some ideas the amount of time they deserve. Um, and I'm still quite positive on the movie because I think it does a lot
Oh,
with
me
nothing.
too.
Like I think the middle portion of the movie especially is really engrossing. Like I'm really into like them like
Hmm.
discovering what they can do, what they can't do. And
Yeah.
again, there's another thing that I wish they went into more. Is at one point something they've gambled on that they've through time travel are feeling positive about actually doesn't happen, and they're like, wait a minute, it changed. Like that this team was supposed to win or whatever, and they didn't.
Um, did it? I mean, I think they said that, well, it must be like a foul ball or something. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, I think it worked itself out.
Did it? Okay. Maybe that was like a quick line at
But,
the end of it.
there was another thing that was brought up that kind of doesn't get explored very much, and that is like his ear starts bleeding at one point. Like Aaron's ear, like just gushing blood.
Yeah,
And they both acknowledge the fact that they're not able to write. Like their writing is it's like writing with their other hand. It's not working. And they know how to do it. It's just not coming out the way they used to. So there is some kind of like mental deterioration or something happening inside the box.
physical side effects. I think the
Mhm.
idea that Aaron's ears bleeding is implying that he has already traveled back to the failsafe, like multiple times. So he's traveled more than Abe has,
Uh,
and that's why he's the one who's
yeah, because I
bleeding.
do see Abe has like a bloody ear at one point later on.
Yeah,
And it's not even like acknowledged, I don't think. But you can see it like his ear's just bleeding.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so at the end of the movie, after they've solved this crisis, they basically have this fight where Aaron's like, "Yeah, well, we have to go now because we're not going to let ourselves go." They've stopped themselves from figuring out like the versions that now exist aren't going to time travel, so they're just going to exist, for however long. Um,
Hmm.
Abe wants to stay in town and kind of monitor themselves to make sure they don't do any time travel stuff and keep things, the way they are. And he's basically not with his girlfriend anymore because now the version that doesn't know about time travel is the one who's going to be with his girlfriend because there's no going to be two of them forever. Whereas Aaron wants to steal their counterparts' passports and just go live somewhere in a different country where no one can speak to
Hmm.
them. Um, and Abe's like, never come back here. Like you have caused so much problems. And there's that Gus again, that Gus kitty. And Abe is like, you have caused so many problems with what you've done to the point where Abe now has to live, a life without the people he loves around him because he can't reveal that there's two of them. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty tragic.
it is pretty tragic. And I wish because when they have this fight at the end, and I remember the first time I watched the movie, not really getting exactly what they were fighting about. Right. Whereas in a second viewing, I did get it more, and I was like, okay, I understand what this fight is, but it's a difficult movie to follow at times. It really is. Um,
Yeah.
and so we get this epilogue scene where Aaron is building a room-sized version of the box with I think French people. He's
Yeah,
expl-
he's been friends.
Yeah, he's explain. So he's got plans to like take whole things back with him. Um, maybe he wants to steal a car, put the car in a time machine, and go back. So he's got the car.
I mean,
I don't know.
he's got big plans. He's got like a whole crew building everything for him. And it's going to be like the size of a warehouse, it seems.
It almost feels
So,
like
I mean, it seems he didn't learn his lesson or he's too greedy to not use this technology again.
it almost feels like it wants to kind of prod at the themes of like just because we can, should we? Is this dangerous?
Oh,
Should
okay.
we not do it? And I think again it's something the movie could spend more time on. And
Or also, like, will this technology be invented anyway by somebody else who's going to abuse it? So, do you do you hide it or?
Yeah,
Wait for somebody else to find it.
yeah, you could go down that route with this. Um, but I think the movie has a lot of little ideas that it just kind of glosses over, or just has in one scene that I'm like, man, you could turn this into like a whole 10 episode TV show and like tackle these ideas an episode by episode.
Do you want to see that? Do you want to see a remake? I think I do.
Yeah, I think, and it's funny actually. You know, I'm working through Dark Season 2 right now with Connor. We're reviewing that, which is a time travel show. And I guess, I mean, it's not the same like time travel rules exactly as this is by any means, but
Hmm.
like I guess in a way, like Dark is kind of like what you want out of a long form version of like exploring the you know, causality and the idea of loops and like, well, once a time loop's in place, like you know, if someone, this actually just happened on the most recent episode, but the debate about this, but if someone goes back in time and gives, say, a writer a book that they wrote, they go back to like say young Stephen King and say,
Hmm.
hey, here's The Shining, you're going to write this in the future. Stephen King reads it and then writes the book because he's read it. Then he never really had the idea for that book, and it creates this loop where, you know, did he ever actually have the idea for it, or did he always just get it from the future? And in that case, then who had the idea? No one had the idea. I mean, it's a paradox essentially. I mean, it's
Yeah, you're
um,
right.
you know, it's Back to the Future. It's hey, it's your cousin Marvin, Chuck Berry. Listen to this. You know, it's that moment from Back to the Future, and but
What a
Dark,
fun movie.
because it's a, you know, it's a TV show and it's got episodes upon episodes to deal with this stuff. Like it's so intricate. You know, like characters in one timeline turn out to be characters in another timeline. You know, there's
Mm.
like all these like crazy things. To its
Was it a
credit,
Netflix show?
Netflix show, yeah. So if you got Netflix, you can watch Dark. Um, but what I really like about it though is that it's unlike Primer, is that it's somehow easy to follow almost all the time. Like it really, like they do such a good job.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, would you want to see this script done with a budget and like actors?
I think not exactly this script. I think this core story, and then maybe expand upon it to like a 2 hour movie, because I think it could totally fill 2 hours and not feel like it's
Yeah.
padded. And yeah, give it a good director, good script. Like I feel
Hmm.
like, who would I like to see direct this, like a remake of this? I could see. I'm
No,
hesitant.
I always default to like directors who've done something similar, and I don't know. Just Ryan Coogler. Just let Coogler do it. Just let him do everything.
I wish he did something similar.
Coogler?
Yeah.
Oh, he hasn't. I'm just saying, like, give him everything because he's
Okay.
amazing.
All right. Okay. We're back to Creed. We're back to Creed. Um.
Always.
No.
God damn this cat.
I want out, mum. No, I
Do
want
you
in,
want to?
mum.
Do you want a fourth cat?
No. 3 is more than enough. 3 is more than enough cats. No, I like. I mean, I think the obvious answer is someone like Christopher Nolan. Like Christopher Nolan doing Primer the remake would be insanely good. Um, I'm also hesitant to
Yeah,
say
he likes timelines.
he does. I'm also hesitant to say someone like Duncan Jones. I say hesitant because after his first 2 movies, he has went massively downhill. So I don't know if I trust him with it. But
Did he do the Warcraft movie?
yeah,
Oh yeah, he's great.
what? No, Sarah. I never saw it, admittedly, but it looked terrible. And
Well, as someone who played World of Warcraft for the 2 years after it came out, I was quite satisfied with that film.
yeah, well, the reviews hated it as well, so I feel confident in saying that it sucked and that you had to already care
Oh,
about.
sure. It's not a good movie, but
Yeah.
if you're a Warcraft player, yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, you already had to care about it. The movie didn't make you care about the characters. You just did because they came from the game that you already really were deeply
You
invested
didn't care
in.
about the orcs?
I never saw it. I don't know.
Oh. Yeah, most people like the orcs in the film. It's good.
I'm good. I really, and I'm not a big fantasy guy
Guy
anyway.
gets turned into a sheep. That's the one thing I wanted to see when I walked in.
But he did, you know, he did Moon, which is a masterpiece, right? And we'll talk about that.
Oh
Next.
yeah,
That's
it's so good. And I love Source Code he did too,
Source Code.
right?
Source Code is really good. We'll
Yeah,
definitely
it was great.
we will do those movies on this show for sure. Those are definitely happening. But then
Yeah.
he did Warcraft, and even if that turned out to be good, I was disappointed that he was spending because it took like 5 years to make that movie, and I want more Duncan Jones movies. I want more sci-fi from Duncan Jones. And then he made Mute. Did you?
Oh, I didn't see it. I heard about it though.
Oh my god, do you? I mean, as a sci-fi movie, so arguably I should redo that with you at some point on the Ace. Although
If you've already done it, then we're good.
the thought of watching it again, see, I want you to live through the pain. I kind of do. That was, and the worst part is that it actually has like a little Easter egg in it where it connects it to Moon, and it made me feel sick because the movie's not good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay, so spoilers for Mute, but only the way like the small like cameo thing that connects it to Moon. At one point on TV, there's like a public court case of like, the character from Moon. It's Sam Rockwell's in it, and it's like him
Yeah.
arguing in court with the like another version of himself, presumably the real version, about like the legality of creating clones, and it like just this felt so shoehorned in.
Well, his next film is a science fiction film
Is that why you're looking at your
called
phone?
Rogue Trooper.
You're not just being unprofessional.
What?
You're not just being unprofessional. That's why you're looking at your phone, because you brought your phone up there when you scratched your nose, and I'm like, this unprofessional bitch.
I'm
What
just
is
so
this?
bored right now.
Shut up, Firefly. I have enough cat problems.
No, I'm looking up Rogue Trooper is his next movie. It's
Yeah.
science fiction.
It's based on I want to say comic book.
It has a comic book on the picture, yeah.
Yeah.
This is like 2000 AD on it.
Yeah, it's a 2000 ED comic. That makes sense. So, what? I feel like I had another thing to bring up.
Oh, for what director you would want to see
Maybe.
do a remake?
Doesn't matter though. Doesn't matter. I mean, I guess that's it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess maybe maybe Ryan Coogler is like a joke answer, but I really just want him to do everything. Maybe he can do a science fiction film. And his lower budget films are great.
But yeah, so I mean, it's not surprising that the bulk of that conversation was about just trying to get our heads around how it worked towards the end of the movie, because that really is where it gets confusing. And I'm sure further viewings might help. I'm sure commenters will maybe try and give us an in-depth reasoning here.
I look forward to the breakdown.
Yeah, I know. I actually looked up some diagrams, like some diagrams that people have done properly online, and oh boy, there's like a definitive one like, on my Google image search. There was like definitive like primer like timeline guide, and it's every single time they travel in time with labels, and it's like insane.
Oh yeah.
So wacky, but it's an
Maybe
inventive.
it'll be good before a second viewing.
Yeah, it's an inventive little movie though, and I appreciate the balls it has and like how much effort went into like figuring out like the rules of it. But I think it could do a better job of conveying some of its information, especially when it comes to like certain characters that are brought up and incidents that are brought up. Like if we're going to revolve the back half of the movie around this shotgun incident, then make it clear. Let us like see it, and let us like witness it and like see them investigating it and like trying figuring things out, and maybe fail to like solve it and go back and do it again, or like give us more, give us something that makes it feel like more solidified in our head. But and I'm not saying spell it out to us. I like that it doesn't pull punches, but it almost goes too far in the other direction and doesn't like convey information well enough. But hey, that's
Should
Primer.
we rate it?
We should rate Primer. Will you give him Primer?
Okay. I really did like this movie. I think it could use a remake just because, like we said, I think I want to see it with just a little bit more budget so I can get a clearer understanding of how this really cool concept works. Because I think it does work. I think it's all there. That being said, I feel better about the movie now that we've discussed it. But I still do have some questions that I don't think we can answer. So I'm going to fault it a little bit for that. I'm not going to hold its budget against it, though, because I am really impressed with the $7,000 budget. And it is a decent film and a great science fiction concept. So I think I'm going to give it an 8. I think it's a deserved 8.
Most movies have cameras that cost way more than $7,000. Never mind everything else that movie costs. Hell, actually, most movies probably spend more than $7,000 on just renting a camera. Never mind buying
Yeah,
one. Um,
probably.
it's insane. Anyway, um, yeah, I appreciate it as someone who is into filmmaking to a point, and I appreciate when I see a low budget film that's inventive. What I'm going to
Hmm.
critique it for is not its budget or like how it gets around that. It's more just the failings of the script to just convey things clearer, both some of the science towards the end, but also just introducing characters and events that are going to be important. Like some of it is just mentioned so quickly in dialogue once, if you're
Hmm.
lucky, and we're supposed to just take it all in from that, and it makes it a very like dense film to like watch and like as consume. Um, and some of that adds, but again, the tone's great. It's inventive in its time travel rules. Um, I love that they stumble into it. I love kind of like just how they try and use it, and then
Hmm.
I wish they did more with like, wait, did someone else travel in time that shouldn't know about
Hmm.
this? Like, how do we fix that kind of thing? I wish it went more
I
into
think this
that.
is going to be a movie that sticks with me,
Yeah, I can see that.
especially when I watch other time travel stuff.
Yeah, do you know it's only been like a year and a half since I did Coherence with Matt, but I think I want to do Coherence so bad on this show with you that it's probably going to happen later this year.
Okay.
I want to show you Coherence because I
I mean, some films, like I think Primer is a good example of a film that's going to be better upon more rewatches.
yeah I
So,
Coherence is one that I liked even more the second time. But Coherence has got a lot going on in it, but it's not as it's not as confusing as Primer is. It's not like that.
is it time travel?
It's not time travel. It's
Oh, you can surprise me when I watch it.
yeah. I feel like I could just say what it's about. I don't think it'd be a spoiler to say the sci-fi concept it's playing with, but I almost don't want you to know. I almost want you to just watch because when I watched the movie, I didn't know what it was about. I just heard it was good from someone, and I just watched
Hmm.
it knowing nothing, and I freaking loved it.
All right.
I freaking loved it. So, um, plus it stars Nicholas Brendon.
Who's that?
He played Xander in the hit television
Ah.
show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Were you intentionally setting me up, or did you genuinely know who that was?
No.
Excellent. I was kind of hoping you'd do it.
I knew the name Xander, so as soon as you said
Yeah.
that, I went, yeah,
I joked earlier about you doing a Buffy reference to pay me back for the Star Trek one, so I was hoping you knew who it was and you would do it. But I'll take the genuinely not knowing who that is because that's funny to me that you didn't know that's where I was going with it. Whereas Connor would be like, you know, like I get it, Nicholas Brandon, do your thing, get it over with. So good. Anyway, that is Primer. We've discussed Primer. Um, and I am time traveled out for the day, but we are not done on this show. But before we get to the bonus section, I want to tell you what you can do to support us. We always do that first. You can, of course, let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. You can like and subscribe. You can support us, of course, if you're on the podcast version of the show on your podcast app, whether it be iTunes, or Apple Podcasts as it's called now, or Podbean, whatever. I don't know. There's a ton of podcast apps.
I don't know.
I
I use Google Podcasts.
You can get it on Spotify for sure. I don't know if you can rate us on Spotify. If you can, give us a rating. But if you rate us 5 stars, it helps people find the show. And if you enjoy the content and want to keep it coming, you can also support us financially. How can people do that, Tara?
Oh, you could check out our Patreon, patreon.com/MildfuzzTV. You can donate as little as $1 per month, and the dollar gets you bonus episodes of The Ace once per
Yeah.
month. You get to vote on which movies we watch, like the ones we watched today. Um, and yeah, check it out.
Yeah. You can do that. And then if we're promoting other content, we should also mention just because we've not had this very long, so I think it's worth repeating this one for people, especially for the patrons we already have. Is that at the $5 tier you get to vote once per month, but you also get to add movies to the Reactor, which is similar
Oh,
to
yeah, that's right.
the Crypt for Screams After Midnight and the Vault for 121 in Flux, where patrons at the $5 tier can submit films that they're choosing to a list that every so often we'll pick one from to do an episode on. It's kind of just like an idea to gauge some interest, obviously from our biggest fans who are patrons, as to what movies they'd like us to do. So do go to patreon.com/MailFustTV and have a look. To promote other content, I mentioned that me and Connor are reviewing Dark. By the time this goes up, we'll have finished season 2 probably, but you can go and see all of season 1 and 2 reviews and it's one of those shows that really is great to discuss between episodes. And I know some people like to watch shows that we've done like that and sort of use our videos as a way to like have that in between episode conversation when everyone else, everyone's already watched it, or they don't know anyone who does watch the show. They get that between each episode, theories and speculation and stuff like that. So I know people have done that with our Twin Peaks reviews as well, which I'd recommend checking out. But for stuff with me and Tara, you promote what we do, Tara.
Well, fan of science fiction, we also review the classic Twilight Zone episodes, so you can check those out. As far as other reviews we've done, I enjoy our Chernobyl ones, which didn't start off with me and Peter. It was Peter and Connor, but Connor was a boob, so I replaced him.
Yes.
I'm not done talking about Chernobyl, so check it out.
I was going to make a joke. I'm not going to do it. I'm too mean to Connor sometimes. I'm not going to do it. All right. So, yes, I do that. And hey, by the time this goes up, it might not be too far away before Tara's doing Babylon 5 reviews as well with me.
Oh, yeah.
Also science fiction. So, check those out.
And that'll be on the regular.
On the regular, yeah, that'll go. I was doing it my own up until a certain point in season 1, and I was struggling to keep it up. But when Tara's on the show, we will make that an official weekly schedule again, and we'll do that. So look at that. Tara's got 3 regular shows on MailFuzz TV now.
Whoa.
She's like
getting promoted.
You're legitimately on more than Matt is now, which isn't a dig at Matt.
I've kept it now.
Matt has a busy life. Matt watches basically too much sports. That's kind of like every time Matt's too busy, it's because it's either hockey season, football season, or
wrestling.
Wrestling. Yeah, he loves wrestling. He watches other things. I don't know. He's a madman. Anyway, but we do have one final section of the show to do here, and that is
the reason that everyone watches.
The reason why everyone watches is our bonus Mystery Science Theater 3000 section. And this week, we get together, we watch an episode of the show. Tara is a long-time fan, so she picks the episodes for the most part. Maybe I'll pick one in the future, but for now, I've been quite happy to let Tara just sort of guide me through the waters. And she picked The Zombie Nightmare.
I'm so disappointed in myself that I did not pick Time Chasers, which is a time travel one.
That would have been on topic for today, that's true. But hey, that means you've got that for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
a good pun.
Yeah, thank you. Damn it, give me credit. I'm an insecure man. Give me
accidental, and I don't want to give you credit for accidental puns.
I'm an insecure man. Give me credit for everything I do that deserves credit, please. Thank you, and goodbye. So, Zombie Nightmare stars Adam West and also Tia Carrere. So
yeah, star power in this one.
Comes from the 80s. This is before she was in Wayne's World or True Lies or anything that made her, a bit more famous. I assume Wayne's World was her big hit, her first big hit, but I could be wrong.
Probably.
I don't know a lot about the career of Tia Carrere beyond True Lies and Wayne's World, and I know she was in a TV.
Now you know this one.
I never watched it, but I know she was in a TV show called Relic Hunter. It was like female Indiana Jones. I think it was a Canadian show.
That sounds right, because I think this movie's Canadian.
Is she Canadian?
I'm gonna look it up.
Is she one
I
of yours?
already have IMDb open.
Is Tia Carrere one of yours? Is she of maple syrup? I mean, obviously she's Asian as well, but like people...
Born in Hawaii.
Born in Hawaii, okay. Oh, she's Hawaiian, okay.
But so much stuff is filmed in Canada. Maybe she got her start there.
That's true. I didn't realize she was Hawaiian, honestly. Oh well.
Yeah, born in Honolulu.
Fair enough. So that's who Scarlett Johansson stole that role from. That's not even a new joke at this time of recording. Like, if you're watching this years from now, you're thinking, oh, that must have been around the time that controversy of that movie came out. No, it wasn't.
Actually, I don't know what you're talking about.
It was actually Emma Stone, but
she played the Chinese woman or something in the movie.
It was half Chinese, half Hawaiian, I think, if I remember right.
Oh.
But Scarlett Johansson did it as well, I'm sure.
She did the Ghost in the
Ghost
Shell
in-
that people are upset
yeah,
about.
Ghost in the Shell, which
Yeah. And she
honestly,
was supposed to play a transgendered woman and got booed off of doing that.
yeah, there was a hubbub. The thing,
Twitter
about-
booed.
the thing, about, the thing about Ghost in the Shell is though, is that like okay, I get it, and it's like I understand why people are upset, but that doesn't necessarily mean the movie will be bad. The problem with the movie though is that it actually kind of tried to use it as a plot point and did it very badly and made it worse. Like it actually.
Do we have to watch that one too?
I mean, Connor already did it, so we can probably just ignore it.
All right.
I'm willing to ignore that one and leave it behind. But like it tried to like do something with it, but it actually like it tried to like justify why they cast a white person, and it made it worse because they tried to like give it a reason. And I'm like, well, like it's not great that you've done this, but trying to actually pass it off as an important plot point is just, eh.
Could you tell if it was like something that was added post everybody getting mad about it?
I don't think it was added, but I get the feeling they knew that people were going to be pissed. Like I think as soon as they announced they were doing a movie, it was like, hey, you should probably use this to like give a Japanese actor like a platform, But hey, anyway, Zombie Nightmare. So the plot of Zombie Nightmare is that
Good luck.
So we have a flashback set in the past where young boy, I don't know, I'm going to call him exposed nipple because when we see him as an adult he has an exposed nipple because he has a tank top that's like cutting so far that you can see his nipple, but exposed nipple boy, he's playing softball, I think.
Softball, baseball. Yeah. Or when he's a boy, he's watching his dad play like a minor league.
That's right, yeah. He's watching his dad. And for some reason, some hoodlums are also watching and kind of like stalk one of a woman that's nearby that they're like stalking for chicks. I don't know. Weird. Because that's where you go to find women to sexually assault. Little league games, or minor league games rather.
Minor league.
Anyway, so that's whatever, right? So they're walking home as a family, mum and dad and the son, and they come across this sight of this woman being assaulted by these two punks, and there's a great joke here actually from the Mystery Science Theater guys where the dad kind of like grabs his son and they say, "Son, go get him," like son, you go help the defenseless woman. I'll stay back here. But he does run up and tries to like fight them off, but they stab him and he dies. He actually falls on top of the woman as he does this. Like he's like lying dead on top of her. So then we cut forward years later, and exposed nipple boy is now exposed nipple man, and he's also playing baseball or softball. I think it was still softball. I noticed that it was weird that he's an adult playing softball. If he's serious about it, it felt weird to me. And I'm not judging. I have never played hardball in my life. Like I like when we tried softball or any type of baseball in high school and PE, it was softball. It wasn't like
Yeah, well, I did too, but that was usually because I don't think the girls in elementary school had a baseball team. I think it was all softball for girls, baseball for boys.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, a little bit.
What's up with that?
I don't know. We all had to throw underhand, and we had the larger ones. I don't know, the larger ball.
That's straight up bullshit.
Yeah. I remember. I think that might have been elementary school, so like little league, but we didn't have a girls' baseball team.
Don't get me wrong. We did split up PE classes into boys and girls classes, but we all did the same sport. We just kind of rotated though, just because there was like there was only so much of like the place to play with each sport. So like the boys' class would do this thing for a week, the girls' class would do this thing, but we'd all do everything. Just kind of thing. I think for some reason like field hockey was always seen as more of a girls' sport, but the boys still did it. Like we still did that for like a week.
I don't know. That's like the most sports experience I have.
Oh yeah, me too.
Just the like 1 year I did softball.
I mean, it was mandatory to take PE. Like there was like a mandatory, like you didn't get graded on it, but there was like a mandatory like double period of PE for the first like several years of high school. So you just had to show up and do it. And sometimes you do track, or sometimes you do this sport.
Sure, sure.
Um, I guess the idea was to teach us all how to play various types of sport. Um,
Yeah.
like
Be a
that.
team player.
Yeah. Well, I grew. I obviously I wasn't in American school, and Americans are so obsessed with their stupid sports teams. Like the fact that
I
people
know.
actually watch like high school sports games like on TV, like or college sports games on TV, is insane to me.
I know it ruins like your whole Saturday because somebody has to have it on TV. Like,
People go and watch it. The only people who go and watch games of anything from high schools in the UK are the parents of the kids who are in it, because obviously
yeah.
they have a vested interest. No one else goes. No one else cares. No one else knows what the teams are called. If the teams even have names, I don't know if they do. There's no mascots. There's no cheerleaders. Like
No, no, it's dumb.
maddening.
I agree.
Anyway, ran over. So I thought that Nipple Explores Nipple Dude was going to be the main character of this movie. He is, however, the victim of a mugger. He defends some people.
Murder.
He defends like a shop owner who gets like held up and like beats him off with his baseball bat. And it's like a riveting scene, epic proportions.
Can't stop yawning.
But anyway, it turns out that the woman that his dad saved is like a voodoo like mistress or priestess or whatever.
Priestess?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So when the son is dying and is taken to his home and his mum sees him, she's like, "No, they take everything away from me." She gets the voodoo woman to do a voodoo zombie spell and resurrects him as a zombie every night. And he goes out and like
Totally glossing over the fact that they took his body either dying or already dead to his mother instead of to a hospital.
Of course, yeah, because that's what you should do. And just so she can see him take his last breath. And yeah, so it's basically a movie about him as a zombie being kind of mindless. He's like a monster, going after all the people who killed him. Because who killed him were a group of teenagers who were driving drunk. The driver of which is like the most like irritating character I might have
With
ever
feathered hair.
Yeah, he's got feathered hair. He says that he enjoyed killing someone. He tries to rape someone at some point. That's actually when he gets killed, which we didn't get to see because it was cut out for the TV like Mystery Science Theater version. Because and it makes sense. I'm kind of disappointed just to not see
It's probably kind of bloody.
Well, I think it was more for the attempted rape than it was the kill scene. I would have thought.
You think so?
I think so. Because none of the other
It
kills.
was a Sunday morning show on the science fiction channel, so they probably couldn't show like a lot of murder.
Yeah, but like American TV's always like had more of a problem with sex than violence.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
And none of the other violence that we do see in the movie seems that extreme. It's all pretty tame by horror movie standards. But like that's kind of the movie. We spend a lot of time with these idiot characters. One of whom is Tia Carrere. She's one of the teenagers, and it's just kind of them being picked off one by one in like kind of silly ways. I guess the most interesting thing to talk about in the movie is that the detective on the case, his boss, his like lieutenant or captain is Adam West, who you don't see for quite a bit in the movie. I'll get to my favorite running joke in a minute, but we also get this character, like there's like another cop who shows up, I guess like the CSI guy who shows up at the crime scenes, who has got a really nasally voice. He's kind of got the, "Hey, see?
Oh yeah.
You're here to talk about his bodies, hey?"
He's totally ridiculous. He's from like another time.
I know. And what's funny is that they start referring to him as the Penguin here, and it wasn't until later that I'm like, oh, they're doing that because Adam West is on it. They're doing a Batman joke. And
oh yeah.
And this movie came out like a 2 years before Tim Burton's Batman, and the Mystery Science Theater episode was obviously like the early 90s, so this was like just post Batman.
Right.
So,
although he was more like Burgess Meredith.
oh sure, yeah.
Penguin. Wait, was he wasn't the Penguin.
I think he was he not?
Wait, was he Burgess Meredith was?
I've not
I could see him with the cigarette, so I think so.
Yeah, I am like my favorite joke in this movie by far, because it made me crack so much. And full disclosure here, Tara, when we were watching this together, was kind of dozing off a couple of times.
Yeah,
I'm
still getting used to my time zone.
I'm pretty
Still
sure
got the boxes.
I'm pretty sure I woke her up with my laugh if she was dozing off at this point, because basically there's a criminal in the
It was
police
so
station
boring.
who is like struggling and fighting the cops, and all the cops start guying up and kicking him. And Adam West is walking past, and the Mystery Science Theater guys crack a joke here where they say, "Yeah, kick him. Pretend it's Tim Burton. It'll be easier." And if
Don't
you
remember this at all.
if you don't know my opinion on Tim Burton, I hate Tim Burton's movies. It came up during Men in Black, I'm sure, because of Danny Elfman, but and it wasn't actually till after this where they made some more Batman jokes where I got that the whole joke here, this running joke, is that Adam West is mad that he's not in Batman and that he hates Tim Burton because of it. But like, and that's actually a really funny running joke, and I laughed every time they made one of those. But because I didn't click for me yet. When they cracked this joke, pretend it's Tim Burton, it'll be easier. It just worked for me, and I started laughing hysterically because it felt like it was a joke just for me, and I love it.
That's why I picked this episode.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
Even though you didn't remember it, like you just said, like 20 seconds ago.
I don't remember it. I know I've seen this movie before where I was awake the whole time, but I don't remember the joke. I don't remember waking up to you laughing.
Such a good joke. So yeah, the plot twist is that Adam West is really the bad guy.
Adam West was the guy who caused Nipple Boy's dad to die.
Because he
was like the hoodlum with the switchblade.
Was that the twist?
And the one that tried to like rape the voodoo lady?
Was that maybe him?
Yeah.
I never got that.
Isn't that the twist? What did you think the twist was?
You're right. Well, I was trying. I couldn't. Well, that was the first thing right there. I was like, I know the twist is that he's a villain and that he was like a shady cop, but and he tries to arrest the wrong guy for the current killings, but I don't think I ever got that he was the hoodlum. I thought he was like a cop at the time and he like let him go because he didn't care or something. I don't know. You're probably right though. Like honestly, like at this point, I was just laughing too hard at Mystery Science Theater jokes.
That's probably true.
Like, I mean, for the record, this is one of the easiest ones I think it's been to actually watch. Like the movie actually is kind of stupidly.
It's coherent.
It's coherent.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah, it has a logic to it, but because they're cracking jokes, you kind of get into it, and you can, and there's some really funny jokes along the way in this one, from the Mystery Science Theater guys. So I mean that's good. There's a lot of Batman jokes. Obviously, at one point, Tom Servo's dressed as Batman and Mike is dressed as Robin. There's some hilarity to be had.
Yeah, I like this one. This is an older, well, not that old. One of the earlier ones with Mike on the show.
Fantastic point.
Which, yeah.
I thought you were going somewhere with that.
I'm pretty tired. It's really late.
Oh dear.
That was interesting. It's interesting to see Mike and both of the mad scientists in the cutscenes. Because usually it's just Mike and Dr. Forrester or Mike with Pearl.
Yeah, no. It's kind of neat to be filling in these different parts of the Mystery Science Theater timeline. I'm trying to remember if there's any other like standout like silly scenes or points I wanted to make. The teenagers always keep meeting at the same diner. Like, there's this one diner they go to like maybe 8 times throughout the course of the movie, and it's clear that they had one place that gave them permission to shoot, so they just did every single exterior scene at this diner.
Yeah.
So that's pretty laughable.
Yeah, and the lead kid that was like the lead of their gang, the one who accidentally like killed Nipple Boy with his car. I mean, he accidentally killed him, but like his whole shtick where he's like now at the club and he's threatening everybody, like, now that I've killed a man, I can like do whatever I want. I feel powerful. And he's always like whipping out his switchblade and stuff.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Yeah. No, he's really bad. He's really bad.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Humans just don't work that way. Like, I don't know.
It took Adam West so long to appear in the film because he is a major character once he pops up, but it takes like 30-40 minutes.
He show up to like halfway through, it seems.
Where I actually said to you, I was like, have I missed Adam West? Like, has he appeared and I've just not noticed him?
Yeah.
You know, maybe I didn't recognize him at this age because it's like a couple of decades since Batman, but a couple of decades before all of his like old age appearances on things like.
You would at least know his voice.
Oh sure, yeah, absolutely. Also, something weird in this movie is that like all the bands on the soundtrack get like credits in the opening. Like they have like
Yeah, that's right.
who is it? Is it? It's Motorhead.
Thor?
Motorhead gets like the logo comes up on screen. It's because it says music by and then Motorhead, and then it goes. They're the only ones who get a logo though, who that's like specifically their font. Everyone else is just like the basic text of the movie. But there's like 6 or 7 bands get a credit at the start, and it made me think that this film only exists to like promote like the soundtrack. Like that's like
It could be the case, yeah. Like the movie was made in conjunction with some kind of like film, or not film, but like music production.
yeah, like a record deal or something like that, and it was like,
Yeah.
oh, let's do a cheap movie to like promote the soundtrack.
I mean, this is the height of MTV, or like
Sure.
maybe just the beginning. Yeah.
Is it a made for MTV movie? That would explain a lot.
Probably not, but it was
Probably not.
probably made with like, this is what the kids want.
Yeah. Hey, MTV did the Scream TV show a few years ago, so I mean, it's not out there.
I heard that was good.
Oh, it's
No,
no.
never mind.
No. And
I heard wrong.
I'm pretty confident you would not disagree with me. I'm pretty confident you'd agree that it's garbage.
That's true.
So, no, I mean that was basically it. Is there anything else about it you want to add on? No.
No, yeah, I was bummed I fell asleep.
Multiple
Couldn't stay
times.
awake through it.
Yeah. But luckily, I managed to maintain attention through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. That is a Zombie Nightmare. Which does beg the question, Tara. Are you going to select next episode's Mystery Science Theater?
Mm. Well, I brought up Time Chasers. We could do that one.
Do you want to do Time Chasers next week? We can do Time Chasers.
Let's do it.
So good
Let's do
enough
Time Chasers.
reason as
A little,
any.
a week late, but that's all right.
Just pretend there's time travel involved. It's fine.
Yeah.
So next
Well,
week's.
I'll start the timer now on the box so that when we watch it next week, that's how it works, right?
Exactly. Yes.
It'll appear. It'll appear now. Okay.
You try and make a primer joke based on the rules of the primer's time travel whilst you've clearly gotten tired is hilarious to me. Like,
I know.
this is how it works, and then that goes there.
Like when we were watching Zombie Nightmare and I could not stay awake. I'm so tired.
This is great. I'm gonna make you agree to just about anything right now.
So I'm so embarrassed at this episode. I've yawned like 6 times and had to let my cat in and out. I don't understand how time travel works.
Oh dear. Anyway, so next week's actual movie, the main movie for the Ace, somehow Tara always gets her way because
I know which one this is.
from the writer of Chernobyl,
Ooh, the masterpiece.
he co-wrote. Well, I say co-wrote implies like 2 writers. Like this was like one of like 6 writers somehow. He worked on a film in the 90s called Rocket Man. Not to be confused with the current Elton John biopic that's been coming out. No,
I hope we get like a bunch of extra views for people who think they're getting a review for the new Rocket Man movie. You're gonna be so pissed.
yes, they are. Now this is a sci-fi comedy from the 90s, and Tara is determined to prove that it holds up better than I think it does. So, because I did see it, I saw this as a kid. It was on the Disney Channel probably. When
probably.
I was young. Yeah. So we're going to do Rocket Man somehow.
Yeah. From the writer of Chernobyl.
And for those of you who are worried that the show's going downhill, that we're doing Rocket Man next, I just want to let you know that the week after we're doing the Terminator. So proper films are coming, right? Proper sci-fi films are coming.
This is a Terra pick. You always know when it's a Terra pick.
You do. Like, what have your picks been so far?
I didn't pick Primer.
No, that was a vote for, and that's not a Tara
sure,
pick.
but I didn't add it to the list originally. That was you.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm going to go to our list of videos here, and I'm going to no, because I'm going to like go through them and make it very clear which ones are Tara picks because I think it's really obvious.
I think people already know which ones are mine.
Oh, I need to type it. I can't type. I've been time traveling too much. I can't type.
It definitely was not Tetsuo.
No, that's a Peter pick, right?
Yeah, that wasn't a Tara pick.
Oh my god, I typed it in the wrong section. Hold on a second. Oh my god, YouTube, you're buckling, you piece of shit. I'm doing. Okay, we go. Okay. That could filter. I could filter properly. Too many people are watching our dark reviews. YouTube's buckling.
Darn.
Our dark is a big hit. Right.
Great. That's great news.
It is great news. I love it. The one that I posted like a few hours ago is already doing very well. It's very nice to see. Oh god, it's already done 14 comments. Damn, I'm gonna have to check those later. Right. Description. Atomic Cinema Experiment. And we're going to see which episodes are clearly whose picks, right? I think it's very obvious at this point.
Right. Yeah, this is not going to be a good drinking game for anyone.
Right, the first one, I think technically we just kind of agreed on that. And then Bumblebee was just like, it's a newish movie.
Because it was coming out on DVD, right?
Yeah. So then Altered States was the next one. That was a me pick because I hadn't seen it.
That was you.
Right. And
I had seen that movie before though.
Yeah, and then Dark City was there, which was you, which is a bit more of a normal pick, I would say. High Life was a new film again, so that wasn't really a pick from either of us. It was just Ash knew we should do it. Day the Earth Caught Fire was me. Wandering Earth was just a new film, so I just was not a pick. Final Countdown was you.
That was me.
That's definitely a Tara pick. How did we do Men in Black next? Why is it 2 of your picks in a row? But there's 3 of your picks in a row. Final Countdown, Men in Black, and Stargate. They're all your picks. What is this bullshit?
There's Tetsuo in between Stargate and Men in Black.
Oh, you're right. Tetsuo's before. It's because the way YouTube works now, the one that's unlisted and like for Patreon only right now actually like appears before the newest one until it goes public. It's weird. So we had 2 in a row. It was Final Countdown and then Men in Black, right? Still 2 in a row. Just for the record. 2 in a row. And then next week
I always get my way.
Next week she gets Rocket Man.
Yeah. Keep the Chernobyl memes alive.
Yes, comrade.
Very well, comrade.
Oh my god. Okay, are we ever going to have an episode that's under an hour 40 again? I don't know. But we'll find out.
No way. This is an hour 40?
Yeah, we're about an hour 40 right now.
Oh my god, no one's going to watch this.
You said that about the final chapter, sorry, and I almost said Final Countdown there.
It is Final Countdown.
What did I say?
Final chapter.
That's a Friday the 13th movie, which was most certainly not the final chapter, let me tell you. And if you want to hear me talk about Friday the 13th more, go check out Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast that I did with Tim. I plugged that earlier, but when in Rome. Okay, I think that actually wraps up the show. We have successfully completed episode...
Experiment.
Test subject 13. Is this 13? I think it's 13. Tetsuo was 10, Stargate's 11. Oh, it's 12. I think it's just 12. No, because the one we recorded that's not been up yet is 12. This is 13.
Okay.
I love how the end of these episodes always just divulge into nonsense. All right, that has been us though. That's been your bonus section. That has been the movie. Has been Primer. Hopefully you did enjoy this. Hopefully you have fun with the show, even when we do get a little bit silly. And of course, as always, like, subscribe, blah blah. All the stuff I said earlier. Get us on Patreon if you want to keep the show coming. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching sci-fi movies, guys. And computer, add salsa.
Yum, yum.